Hi, Dave.
Hey, Steven.
Uh, oh, a lot of reservations. Okay, did you get through the lot?
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't too difficult. I suppose it did take a bit of time. Mystery of the Swamp, I think, is one that I must have seen before. No, I remember what are they called again? The Canoozers or whatever.
Right.
The ride up on it, identified them as gnomes of some variety. Gneasels, that was it. Looking like something out of a Rip Van Winkle story.
Yeah.
One of the commentaries said that the images tend to have a very good pacing, just giving the right amount of detail. Moving on. As the commentary said that he came up with this story swinging on a kid swing, dreaming about a swamp. Went on to say that uh, Bach had a cynical view of the idealized versions of childhood and old society being given in the movies. And you had, when there was showing a satire of the My Friend Flicker films, Donald and the nephews go to.
Yeah.
Well, they're on the boat going up the river, shot at by arrows. Looks like something out of Apocalypse Now. On page 16.
Hmm.
Anyway, Donald starts out by dreaming about the explorers of old. So very much Donald was always doing the boy's own sort of stuff. This was a powerful era. The boy's own, probably from about 1850 to 1950, when the ordinary person could start to equip themselves and can sort of start going places and having adventures. It had been pretty much limited to the extremely wealthy prior to that, but with the increasing technology and the availability of transport, things changed. Okay, visit the Everglades. You might find something interesting. So this is one of the famous stories.
Hmm.
They did make a reference to the one where they found the lost Inca tribe, which is one that sticks very well in my memory.
We got a long way to go.
Well, you've brought these out. These are sort of time sequenced. Are they the sort of starting around the end of World War II
Mm-hmm.
and going along in time? Okay. Yeah, like on page 20, I can remember the Genesel leaving a trail of grapes.
Hmm.
Didn't know they had grapes in the Everglade. Maybe it's supposed to be just berries. Of course, curiously, Donald is referred to as a human.
Hmm. Well, Parks wasn't particularly consistent about calling the ducks ducks or humans. He pretty much was interchangeable about that.
Well, anything exciting this week, Dave, besides the news?
Besides the news.
Oh, the news is pretty exciting these days. Wars, political upheavals, philosophical debates that have lost all link with reality.
Mhm. There was a meeting that did Watchmen yesterday, but it was on Discord, which I don't think you're on, and I don't think you're going to be on. So,
Uh, yeah, I did have a Discord. I might have the link in my. I keep a book with a list of all the passwords and that.
hmm.
So, or otherwise you find the unhappy habit that you've forgotten all your passwords.
I have a text file, put them all on there.
Okay, so he finds himself in some sort of stone castle structure, put in prison, and they give him something that causes memory loss. So he comes back not remembering his adventure. The next one, I think I might remember. I tend to have quite a strong passion for shipping images. When I was a kid, they always had quite a striking effect on my mind. As
Hmm.
I mentioned, like, for example, when I was about 7, there was this Russian stamp with a picture of a Russian icebreaker on it, and I'll just go and stare at it for ages. The image affected my emotions so intensely.
Hmm. Sure.
So the mystery of the swamp, followed by the tramp steamer. So Donald gets himself a minuscule tramp steamer. tries to do some cargo business. Sounds a bit like Jack London. That's what he tried to do when he was fairly young. Tried his hand at a few things.
Mm-hmm.
After that, when that doesn't work, you've only got a choice between writing and politics. Yeah, well, I've still got a few copies of a few issues of the Watchmen to go, but I guess I can get them done in time since it's only a couple of weeks away or something when you're doing Watchmen.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So sort of going through this, it's sort of I still came to the conclusion that Donald is still pretty much stuff for kids at a certain age.
well, we've talked about that before. It's all ages, but something being all ages doesn't preclude it from being of high quality.
Well, I had the Mickey Mouse at the ends, which wasn't bad.
Oh yeah.
Something slightly different with a Mickey Mouse story compared to a Donald story, though.
Well, he's not as interesting a character.
Oh well, the Striking Adventures, page 39, his boat ends on the back of a whale. There's a trick is to get off the whale. I suppose when you're young, this is quite powerful imagery.
These are some of the best comics that have ever been done. We're still not at the absolute prime of Barks's output.
Yeah, a lot of the ones I grabbed were Uncle Scrooge rather than Donald Duck, so I'd probably say I concentrated more on Uncle Scrooge, which usually had, well, always had Donald in it. Matalia just sent me something. Oxford mathematician destroys atheism. As a Christian friend of hers sent her. I'll look that over. It's been working on an image. It's been working on an image for somebody, but she takes ages with it, I think.
Okay.
I was sort of telling Natalia that, the moment she got sacked from a job recently, and she went for an interview for another job. Of course, she's working on getting permanent residency. I'm sort of trying to tell her that sometimes it just pays to have your own project rather than expect the world to deliver you one. I mean, you just need to work at something. Uh, it's no good dreaming sometimes. Sometimes you've got to try apply yourself to reality and see how it works out. well, like, with the job, she thought it'd be easy, and then she discovered all the pitfalls of working. You get a lot is expected of you, and you get blames by the managers, which can be partly true sometimes, but managers like to blame. Well, we all like to blame somebody else. She was quite shocked by all that. That's the trouble, too much time dreaming, not enough time applying to reality.
Mm.
Okay, so Donald goes skipping along on page 41 with his tramp steamer. So he's trying to capture the whale. The tramp steamer's named the Drip. What a curious name. It makes you curious if Bach maybe did stories about his younger years when he was out and about, supposedly going through these different jobs and working farms and stuff like that. What his observations were. A long race to Pumpkinburg. Oh, that was the skating race, right? Donald finds a way of cheating. A lot of his adventures are very domestic. Sometimes they could strike out into the big world.
Mm.
Now, while he does the hare versus the turtle, finds a spot to lie down and get some heat from a furnace, heating up his skates, which when he tries to skate, melt through the ice. Rockets often figure in it. So, rockets were a thing we could freely buy back in those days. What's it like in the US? Like in Australia, technically you can't buy fireworks anymore.
Mm.
What happened in the US? Fireworks sort of banned, or
Not that I'm aware of. No.
right? Yeah. Okay, the next one, the web-footed wrangler. One where he tries to be a cowboy. Ah, the horse called Rattlesnake. This one, the icebox robber, interesting one where he's raiding the icebox as a sleepwalker and blaming his nephews. Come on, get up, kids, it's 8 o'clock. Somebody has robbed the icebox. All right, he's got the switch out with corporal punishment. So do here were the nephews do Sherlock Holmes.
You never get pages that just don't show up in your comics reader program, do you?
Uh,
I have that. I have that problem. My comics reader just doesn't show up certain pages.
Alrighty,
Most of them it does, but just a quirk of the program I'm using.
Set the CD. This.
No, you're on Windows. I'm not on Windows.
Oh, right. Okay. Can't say I've noticed.
Yeah.
Okay, tries to get a picture of a woodpecker. Pecking order. Oh well. Plus, there was a cartoon with a woodpecker, Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah.
Well, his old camera doesn't work, so he moves on to a 35mm camera. Dresses up as a woodpecker. And the nephews managed to get the photo. Taming the Rapids was the next one. Okay, they come to the Grand Canyon. Find a caveman in the Grand Canyon.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, this was the satire, the next one. Days at the Lazy K. So they're watching the film Wonderhead, Son of Ticker with Rodney McHale.
Mm.
Oh, I think, yeah, forgot about that. Yeah, Rodney McDowell was originally playing a kid in those films. Okay, tries to tame a cult. Okay, I thought a good bit was where he tries hypnotism on page 95, and the cult hypnotizes him back.
Yeah.
So this is something that's sort of amusing elements. I don't know how many would get into a sort of a story, a subplot like that, besides Bark. I say Donald's always attempting mastery, but he ends up being the victim of the story. Castor oil. Okay, that's sort of, I wonder if, what castor oil is supposed to be good for. Constipation or something, I don't know.
They're some of the best comics ever done. Just good, solid cartooning chops. Good, solid construction and execution. Someone said Barks's stories are plotted like an egg, perfectly packed.
Okay, benefits of castor oil, a powerful laxative. A natural moisturizer might promote wound healing, may be helpful for cleaning and applying castor oil in the belly button can relieve constipation, improve digestion. What the hell? Does castor oil in the belly button make you pass gas? This is all new stuff to me. What does rubbing castor oil on your feet do? Okay. Well, this is a curiosity. There is no scientific evidence that suggests applying castor oil to the belly button can make a person pass gas. Well, yeah, looks like you ingest it for aid with constipation. All right, they give the cult castor oil, and it freaks, doesn't want any more, and becomes controllable. Eyes in the dark. So Donald rigged some electronic device to track his nephews. So he has them working like slaves, cleaning up the house. Three Mad Apes. Page 108. Okay, the apes appear to be a force of nature. All right, next one, he's got the nephews as detectives again. Bug busters. The kids are playing. They're detectives. Okay, decides to trick them using horseshoes. Okay, the nephews set out on an actual crime. And Donald's still engaging in trickery. Phony blood. It's a curious thing I'm pointing out that the blood on page 116 is done in black rather than red. Like I was thinking maybe red would be a bit too much. Right, ski race is the next one, I think. Yeah, page 118. The kids are rolling in money since they got that $500 reward. Looking very Uncle Scrooge before Uncle Scrooge came along with the obsession with money. I used to, love the coins and notes. That's the idea, you wanted money for your toys and whatever, and so the imagery of money was a powerful draw. If you look at 118, so you got the big sign, Big Water Ski Races, Beaver Tail Lake today. So you've got the athletic looking dog face on the poster.
Hmm.
All right, so he starts building a speedboat, taking out his car motor. Yeah, well, generally things just not working out all that well for Donald. Donald ends up in prison. $10 dither is the next one, I think. Yeah. Nephews are fighting it out. The funny thing, of course, as soon as Donald's regime of terror ever ends, the nephews turn into beasts. So they found the $10 bill. Yeah, I'm making the commentary. This is where Donald usually he's trying to be selfish, and then sometimes he goes overboard with altruism as well. It's proving uh,
Yeah.
Ayn Rand's point that altruism and selfishness are closely related. Well, everyone wants a $10 bill. So on page 131, he runs into the old woman who gives him a hard time.
Yeah.
Mark seems to have something particularly bad about parrots. Parrots are always turning up as demons. Okay. They're out for the $10 bill and they fill his house to the brim on page 134. The madness of crowds. It's a strong feature. Yeah, it was always a thing in duck, duck comics, the madness of crowds,
Yeah.
which we're still getting today, actually. Not quite the same way, but something a little bit changed in the flavour. At the moment, everyone's running around burning Teslas. Okay, at the end of it all, they find the little kid who lost the $10. I don't know how much money he lost in the pursuit of all this. I mean, he even put an ad in the newspaper that would have cost him a little bit of money. Okay, according to the blurb at the back, the next one was the first Christmas story.
Yeah. We did a collection of Christmas Hallmark stories.
Oh yeah, it's sort of yeah. Donald Duck's Best Christmas.
Only partly. We couldn't do all of them in 1 week.
So the nephews give away their bouncy to the poor family. And they come home and they're still okay because Grandma Duck has showed up to give them a Christmas. I might have said this was the first one with Grandma Duck in it. I'm too sure. Said Grandma Duck was actually the creation of somebody else besides Barks. But then Barks used the character, of course. It was somebody else's Disney creation.
I think she was Bark's original creation, I think.
Okay, I'll check the one at the end again. See what it said.
Or I think it was, doesn't look like it was. Al Taliaferro, the other guy who also did a lot of Donald Duck comics. We haven't done any of his. You know what? I gotta step away just for a second. I'll be right back.
Yep.
Yeah, the article says, yeah, it was Al Taliaferro who created Grandma Duck.
Right, yeah.
The other Duck Comics creator. We haven't done any of his comics yet. We might not.
His grandmother, of course, is Grandma Duck, the character created in the 1940 by Bob Carp and Al Taliaferro for the Donald Duck newspaper strip. Okay.
Right.
Barks draws her for the first time. So,
Yeah, I've read those. They're not as good as Carl Barks.
oh, okay. That'll be interesting to check them out. They're only strips. Bark, of course, was doing, multi-page stories.
Well, they have their charm. They're certainly charming, but the gags aren't very good. Pretty weak, actually.
Compared to Bark stuff. Okay. Donald tames his temper. Well, this is a interesting story. So we've got Daisy Duck. I'd be curious who created Daisy Duck.
I'm willing to bet she was probably comes from one of the cartoons.
You mean one of the newspaper strips?
I'm willing to bet she comes from one of the cartoons originally.
Okay. Check out the story. Check out the commentary at the end. See what they got to say.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Daisy and even the nephews creations of the cartoons.
All right. Yep. Donald keeps his temper, and his nephews go out of control. The nephews are making a snowman of Donald. Let's see who this is going to be. Probably Matola again. I yeah, put that image out of Cthulhu in the Facebook chat. Unusual image there. Actually, I think Matali actually has got. She wasn't planning to go anywhere today. She could have joined, but just can't be bothered.
Hmm. If I were doing history overview comics, I think I'd cover a lot of items that you might not be interested in. The classics that we've done so far. We did Crazy Cat. That didn't really go over very well. We did Flash Gordon. We did Little Orphan Annie.
Yeah, of course.
We did Pogo. We did Pogo. Yeah, that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose Pogo's a sort of powerful creation. It's a certain sort of character type in a Pogo. You do sort of come across them. They're sort of very sort of apparently innocent personalities who insist upon seeing the good side of everything.
Actually, I remember the reason we started doing some of those, like Crazy Cat, was because I wanted to do a comic that was going to do some parodies, and then that would be a way for you to understand what the parodies were about. And then we ended up never doing that particular comic, and probably never will. There's a lot of other ones to cover that we might cover, particularly Winsor McKay, Little Nemo.
Okay, that was the turn of the century one. Well, turn of the previous century.
Yeah, but there's a long list of comics that are significant enough to be noteworthy, like Popeye and things like that.
Yeah, Genesis, that's right. Genesis mentioned Little Nemo in one of their songs. Have you ever come across that?
No, not off the top of my head. Never got that much into Genesis, honestly.
I did like them. Well, one of their albums I liked. And then there was Free.
I just remember Phil Collins being offended when someone would ask him, "Why don't you do the same music you did back in the old days?"
Oh, you mean Genesis style of music changed when Phil Collins came along?
Well, obviously, but
I thought I did really enjoy one of their albums. I quite
sure.
got off on it quite. Genesis, uh, Little Nemo. From a Night's Dream, scenes from a Night's Dream. That's it.
I may have heard it back when I was listening to rock, classic rock radio. There was a show that played full albums, and I would listen to that. It's how I've heard a lot of the classic 60s, 70s stuff.
Little Nemo rubbed his eyes and got out of bed, trying hard to piece together a broken dream, his visions lifelike, full of imagination. It's strange to think that they came from such a tiny head. Dragons breathing fire but friendly, mushrooms tall as houses, giant nymphs and goblins playing, scenes from a night's dream, poor little Nemo, eating all kinds of food so close to bedtime, always gave him these nightmares, it seemed.
Huh.
Well, then again, of course, this song's almost from 50 years ago, which is only about 70 years removed from little Nemo itself.
Interesting.
Suffering from bad service management?
Yeah, but see if you play the song. It'll get the video flagged on YouTube. Playing a copyrighted song.
Oh, that's it there. Oh, sorry, I'm not quite following. You get the video flagged if you do a search or.
Well, if the song it plays on the audio of this video, then YouTube will note that the copyrighted song will be playing on this video. And yeah,
You mean
possibility I could get a copyright strike.
oh, right. Oh, right. They'd pick it up that it's being played on your Zoom.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't
We
usually
have,
keep these videos. Well, the
right,
graphic novel group meetings.
oh, that's right, because you're recording them. I see.
When you look at my channel, you almost all of them are just the Millennium Microcosm meetings, the Kenneth Smith meetings. I usually delete these graphic novel meetings.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I got Angelina to show up at the last meeting. She's in Jordan these days. But she actually did. I said, well, this is
Was that was that her? See, I
yeah.
was wondering. Okay, really? I yeah, because there was no indication of anybody with that name from any of the groups RSVPing on Meetup. So that answers my question. I was wondering who that was.
Oh, okay.
And she didn't say anything, but I was just curious.
Well, she's almost been a lurker, actually. Sometimes she
All,
did.
all I
She
can go on is just what she looks like, just from her face. Doesn't strike me as someone who laughs a lot.
no, very serious person. She came on when we were doing the Palestine comic.
I might remember that. Okay, maybe. Well, have you talked to her? What did she say anything about
Oh, okay. What did she say? I'll.
that she
Uh,
liked what
I thought
she?
I said, she was just up at the time. She hadn't gone to bed. That was right, because that was late at night in Jordan. Uh,
Yeah, it's just going from how she looks, just and nothing else. Yeah, I get the impression she's a fairly somber individual,
that's that's an interesting observation, actually.
which is fine. I get
A lot of
used
people
to that.
take themselves very seriously.
I get accused of that myself. So
Uh, no, not really. A lot of people think that they're destined for great things. Do you think you're destined for great things? Maybe in your wildest dreams, you have in the middle of the night and don't tell anybody about. It's a bit like those guys that are down a few cans and think they're rock stars.
Well,
fair enough. We all do that at some point.
well, if I am, then I'm miserably disappointing that destiny.
Well, I perhaps, we all sort of think, oh, gee, wouldn't it be great to be famous and great or, achieve something great. And I think, consider the humble sperm. Billions of sperms get released, and out of that, only one makes the egg, which creates a human being which probably has a certain amount of potential, but of course, their potential, whatever it is, even if there is something good, is probably going to be drowned out by all the other potential. So very, very few make it to the top, like Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Now, those were sperms that got somewhere, but most of us are sort of stuck with our limited existence and our personal limitations. Oh, right. So she,
If she comes back, it'd be interesting to actually hear what her take is on any of what it's about, if she has any.
right, what'd she say?
Interesting.
Yeah, thanks again for the invitation. I mean, it wasn't bad, maybe one or two insightful moments.
Yeah, well, that was her talking there about the group. And yeah, maybe too much talking. She was probably more into following the course material more closely.
Well, we've talked about that before. Ideally, that would be great, but it's not going to happen. Um, it would be my preference. We've talked about this before, but
Yeah, I just dropped her a photo of Rick and the cat. Took a screenshot. Oh, what we got there?
I have one of the participants at one of my graphic novel groups who doesn't understand the concept of owning a pet. As he says, don't get it. I don't understand. That's what he says. He doesn't understand owning a pet. He's never owned one, so he doesn't know. And doesn't understand why people do.
Yeah, well, Natalia, just goes around looking at pet stores, looking at cats all the time. If she runs across a cat, she's quite excited, but her parents wouldn't allow her to have a cat in the flat they got her. As I said to her, well, you got a cat, you're going to end up with cat fur over everything.
Well, they're short hairs.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah, that's right. The long hairs are really bad.
Noam Chomsky is another one. Doesn't understand the idea of owning a pet. He said.
All right, right. Well,
There's
I had
something a bit odd about that, don't you think?
well, I did have a cat when I was a kid. I haven't kept the cat since I left my parents because I thought I'd always worry about, looking after the cat or something like that, and it'd sort of limit what I could do, if I just wanted to shoot out the house whenever I could. But I quite enjoyed the company of a cat when I was a kid, or
If you're gonna be away for a long, extended period of time, then get somebody to take care of the feeding. if necessary.
Yeah, I just dropped the picture and she said, should I join and listen? And I just gave her the links and I said, well, you can sample. Doesn't hurt to sample.
I always wonder about people who come once. They come like, well, you've been there as much as I have, and you've seen people come once, and even if they seem like they're into it, they seem like they're kind of digging the whole vibe, and then they just don't ever come again. I always wonder. There was a guy just like, yeah, 2 weeks ago. Seemed like he was into it, but we'll never see him again. I guess it's a bit of a commitment, sure.
Well, I think it's a limitations IQ, of course, and you're dealing with material which requires IQ. I saw, some interesting commentary on the concept of stupidity, and
Mhm.
IQ doesn't save you from stupidity, but to process certain types of information is greatly aided by having an IQ. Like
Yeah.
my IQ at its best would only be about 120.
Yeah.
Of course, you see these claims, for example, that generally people who are successful in business have IQs between 100 and 110.
Yeah.
And the nerd factor works against success in certain fields. This is it. They always talk about IQ like it's the absolute advantage. No, it's an advantage in certain situations, and it can become detrimental in other situations. They're always debating what's his face's claim when he added up the average IQ of various countries, and like across the equatorial belt, the average IQ is 75. Now you tend to find it rising to 100, where you're getting perhaps regions which have extreme changes of season. But this is a bit they overlook. They go, oh, you're a really bad person saying all these third world people have low IQs. Well, it's their lack of imagination. Have they ever figured out if we believe this sort of survival of the fittest, that means in the equatorial belt, up until now, prior to modern technology, the fittest IQ was 75. It was saying on average in the equatorial belt, having an IQ of 100 was on average a disadvantage. Maybe an advantage in certain situations, but on average a disadvantage. And it never occurs to him in the debate that if Darwin is right, I mean, if IQ was such an absolute advantage, the entire planet would have IQs of 200. But it isn't. It's like, I've met guys, with high IQs, and half of them can't drive a car. Their minds are somewhere else. And yeah, when it comes to stupidity, as I point out, IQ is no bar to stupidity. Well, of course, a literate example is Idiocracy, where he takes the term time machine literally, only to find out it was an amusement park ride. And his dumb mate said, of course it's an amusement park ride. You don't think there's such a thing as a real time machine, do you? But that was the trouble with IQ, as a tendency to literate belief. Yeah, it's Phil. When Phil chimed in, I said, what did I call Phil? Okay, my commentary back to her. Yes, the group was worth a look. Rick is too tolerant with people verbally on. For that, Rick talks excessively as well, but Rick is worth listening to because he's spent a lot of time with older books. They concentrate on the works of Kenneth Smith, a US philosopher of continental persuasion, but certainly worth a look at the group. Yeah, trying to remember what I called Phil in it, actually.
It sure would be interesting to know what her take is on the actual reading. Smith.
Yeah, well, I did link the pages. I did give her the entire site. You link to the entire Kenneth Smith site.
And if you really want to get into Smith, the book Millennium Microcosm isn't the ideal choice. The best stuff
Yes, you're
Smith ever
referring
did.
to a few of his essays, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Those are the best. But guess we're locked and committed. No.
Yeah, well, Rick spends a lot of time with internal dialogue, of course, which is the bane of us all, if you're a bit nerdy.
Hmm.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I gave her a direct message when Phil went on. Phil is the town bore.
Hmm.
I'll take a leaf out of Elon Musk's book, Give me your opinion in 30 seconds. And what else did Angelina say?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people who've had good, strong, positive response to either the group or Smith's writings. But
Oh, yeah,
where are they? Where did they
Phil
go?
is a town bore. And she replies, yes, seems so. There is always one in each group I'm in. And I referred to the stream of consciousness, which you'd pointed out. And of course, for Angelina, stream of consciousness is the literary concept. But in psychology, I discovered they talk about stream of consciousness as the way a person's mind operates when they're not particularly tying down what they think. They're just going from thing to thing. Things are just streaming in and streaming out
Yeah, right.
without sort of tying their minds down and sort of filtering. That is, yeah, filtering what they're saying and that.
Right.
She spent some time wandering around Armand at night. So it was about 11 o'clock at night for her. So she was listening on headphones for a while. It's Ramadan and very festive here. Ah, right. She was a bit struck when Rick commented, or somebody commented on the concept of character as if it's not quite real or something. Can't quite remember the sequence there. As someone who studies literature and takes classes in character studies, well, I don't even know what to say about that.
Wow.
Yeah, I made a reference. Replying to do we don't believe in character. Yes, Nietzsche's point. The modern age is sophisticated and complex, but shallow. You've heard me make that point plenty of times, haven't you? That was the curious thing I struck in Nietzsche, where he even comes up with the expression, they ain't even shallow. The modern age is so shallow, it isn't even shallow. It doesn't even have a millimeter's depth. That was the takedown of women. And like I said, I get the feeling, looking at Nietzsche, he's not necessarily just talking about women as a category on its own. He's referring to another category of people altogether, or even academics, as they're too passive. They just accept what they see without questioning it. And that's a passive element. It's not an active way of looking at things. And this seems to have been his great criticism of thinkers in his own age. And so he refers to them as the feminine. Of course, the divine Sophia is a feminine element amongst the ancient Greeks. Okay, do we? We don't believe in character, she said. Oh, right. Okay. Look, I take this point. The point is, let's say there's a lady selling fruit in Amman, where she's in, capital of Jordan. In medieval culture, you might take the time to know this person in more detail. But today we rush past the fruit seller. Just sell me the fruit, I'm busy. This is the point I'm trying to make. Modern people aren't shallow because they intend to be shallow or intend to be deep. It's because of their environment. Medieval people lived in an environment which was narrowly defined, but it meant you could take any specific thing in great depth. You didn't have that much information to deal with. Angeline is probably, I'd describe as a rather proud person. She's probably, like most people, she tried to make her way in academia and discovered there's only so much room at the top. That you could get shot down for a multitude of reasons. Or Kenneth Smith, obviously, probably wasn't highly regarded by his fellow academics. They probably had reasons not to like him.
He has talked pretty extensively about his experience as a teacher, college professor.
Well, if you rock the boat, this is the whole thing. These setups are the living of various people. It's status. It gives them money. It gives them status, and they've got a way of doing things which is devoted to those causes. And if you come along with a different attitude other than supporting the money and the status theme, you might have to watch out. She's very anti-Israeli, although we're on common ground because we're both pro-Russian in the current politics. Everyone says what a wicked thing Russia did in invading Ukraine after all the guarantees that were given. But they fail to grasp the point that Ukraine decided, hey, our borders are inviolate, let's have a civil war. You start a civil war in your own country, you start creating a power vacuum, you're going to suck other people in, whether they want to come or not. Okay.
Well,
Australia is another person. Australia will be hit hard by Trump's tariffs.
be interesting if she becomes a regular, but probably too much to ask.
Well, it's not impossible. When she was in Germany, her husband's a violinist, works in orchestras, and he got a job in Jordan as a teacher. Since you probably, if they're probably picking from Jordan, they're trying to pick out people to bring culture to Jordan, I suppose. So you don't have as much competition, and so he's got himself some job in Jordan. And her should be trying to find if she can get a job in her role as a teacher of literature.
Mm.
Well, at least she knows her grammar, which I don't. Never taught grammar when I went to school. I'd gone.
Mm.
Uh, Pictures, screenshots. I think I might have taken a screenshot of her. Let's see.
I think, well, as far as I know, only Donna is the only one who actually is committed to listening to the entire series, going through the whole backlog. Start at the beginning and do all of it. I probably am not even going to do that.
712. Oh, yeah, there's the screenshot there. I've put it in the chat. Angelina's father was Lebanese and her mother was Russian. And she despises the entire Nordic world. And she's included Northern Italians amongst the Nordics. And she finds them to be cold people, like, you know, once you get to Greeks, she's a bit happier, she says.
Well, if she comes back, it'd be interesting if she ever wants to say anything.
Oh, that's right. In the screenshot, I've got my comment. Phil should write a book.
Yeah.
Put all the great ideas, Phil, in the one, you know, giant encyclopedia. See how we go.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. I guess it is kind of a big ask to say if you want to join in, you gotta go through the entire backlog, catch up. It would take a year or two, very likely.
Oh, well, I think each page can be explored for itself, but you sort of, I suppose you need some sort of a background in history. Or, you know, you'd need to appreciate ancient or medieval history, which in a small way I've already done, so it's not so difficult. You know,
Yeah.
we're talking about consciousness change, whatever consciousness means, uh, or the change in ideas. So we go back to the pre-axial age, and we have a world that didn't have the later concepts, a world that, you know, looked at existence in a different way than we do today. We're getting the first real something we can understand as moderns with Socrates. You know, pre-Socratic, the pre-Socratic world to us to moderns is a mystery. The pre-Socratic world was, well, I don't know if I could use the word naive, but it's sort of a more naive relationship to reality. The supernatural and the natural were mingled together. Later, they were separated conceptually. But of course, a thing which came with Socratic rationalism was skepticism. And Christianity seemed to have evolved as an antidote to skepticism, you know. What if my God's not powerful enough? You know, I'm seeking salvation. What if the God is not powerful enough to save me? I could do all the right things, but the God just isn't. Well, look, our God's all powerful, infinite power. It's one of the great questions as to what was the psychological motive behind salvation? Did it exist in earlier times in the same sort of sense? We see a bit in the ancient Egyptians, we see some quality of the what became the more advanced attitude, a very, very sort of regulated society. Donald tries to work on his stamp collection. They're blown all over the place. Oh, hello, Daisy. This is Donald. Made a resolution to hold my temper. Now the kids are running wild. What'll I do? Well, I spank them, of course. Be firm with them, but don't show anger. Okay, the next one you've got the parrot. Joe the parrot, troublesome parrot. As regards Smith's ideas, I suppose, yeah, well, they're very, a little bit in the direction of characters like, oh, the post-German idealists, I suppose, a bit similar to that. So you get into territory like uh, Spengler, even Rudolf Steiner before he turned into a mystic. So it's that sort of very sort of Goethean sort of view of the world, which was a reaction against viewing the world purely through the lens of Newtonian physics. And of course, that wasn't Newton. Newton created Newtonian physics, but that was by no means his worldview. He was simply describing physics. But the rest of the world took it as the entire, the basis for an entire worldview. And Goethe became the reaction against that whole way of thinking. I never know. If Angelina finds that she doesn't have much in the way of spare time on those evenings in Amman, I'll remember to post the link to next time I get on. But at the pace it goes, yeah, I think Rick could run a tighter story. It just doesn't help just spending an excessive amount of time on every paragraph.
Yeah, well, yeah, something to be said for that. Yeah, there's not going to be an ending. We're just not going to get to the end. But well, it's the journey, not the destination.
Okay, well, I guess that will wrap this one up, I suppose.
Do you want the next Kenneth Smith Nietzsche YouTube?
Oh yeah, might as well, yeah.
There. If you're enjoying that series.
Okay. So this was 2015, done on the 21st of August. It's got an A at the end for some reason. Okay, thanks a lot, Dave. See you next time.
Okay. Bye, Stuart.